Thank you, Chairman Ping. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'd like to start by thanking the two distinguished gentlemen, Dr. Walsh and Dr. Tajuddin Hamad, for this kind invitation and for their effort with the Universal Peace Federation to create peace around the world. I don't think UPF could have chosen two better men to advance this cause and given their genuine heart in believing this. Excellencies, at the outset, having come from Cairo on the heels of the summit of the Organization of International Cooperation 2 weeks ago, and as you know, the OIC is the second largest intergovernmental organization after the United Nations. It's composed of 57 countries, Islamic countries around the world. So I would like to share with you at the outset some of the results of that summit which just took place. In the President's speech to the summit, he highlighted the need to foster and promote dialogue and understanding between the Muslim world and other countries to secure mutual respect, enhance trust, while respecting the human and basic rights and freedoms for all humankind. The Cairo communique, which was adopted by consensus at the end of the summit by all the Muslim heads of states, reiterated that Islam is a religion of moderation and openness, which rejects all kinds of intolerance, extremism, and introversion. All the leaders who spoke emphasized Islam's true message of peace. Topping the summit's agenda was the Palestinian issue, which remains the corner for any security and stability in the Middle East and the world at large. In this regard, the Muslim heads of states and government called on the UN and the Security Council and all organizations such as this one to bear the responsibility in implementing the United Nations resolutions and to see the two-state solution come to reality according to the Arab Peace Initiative. You will agree with me after what we have heard of 2 days of peace that the Palestinian people should not be the only people in the world who are deprived of their freedom and human rights. The only people in the world who still are subject to subjugation and daily suffering. And I urge all of you, to use your leverage, your soft power, your goodwill efforts, so that one day with you and UPF, the Palestinian people can also enjoy their freedom and have their state as every other country around the world. Today, and let me be clear about this, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is not a religious one. It is a political one. It is one based on occupation, which must end to allow peace to be sustained. The continued building of settlements is a cancer eating at the two-state solution. It deprives the people of a future homeland. I cannot say that religion, although it is not the cause of the conflict, but one cannot underestimate its role in promoting religion and tolerance, especially in the region. Different as their theological grounds or practices may be, all faith in the world have a common message of peace. One cannot consider religion without addressing peace, for religion does not help only individuals to achieve inner peace, but more importantly teaches them to be in harmony and concord with their environment and others. All the work and effort exerted in the dialogue between civilizations and religion is around this truth. As we pursue dialogue and cooperation, however, we should be alert to the growing sense of superiority that some have, based on flawed assumption that their values, cultures, social and legal justice systems are superior to others. Politicization, selectivity, and double standards should be avoided. No one has the monopoly of wisdom, and all cultures have contributed to today's civilization. Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you today from a region that is witnessing a rare and difficult moment of rebirth. It is a historic moment when peoples of the region rose to defy years of stagnation and express their development aspirations. During the climax of the 25th January Revolution in Egypt, Egyptians raised their voices calling for better standards of living, freedom, and social justice. As you have observed, the route is long and fraught with challenges. However, faith, persistence, and adherence to the principles of respect and dialogue can and will carry us through. Egypt, throughout its history, has been known to promote and support action towards peace and peaceful existence within and between nations. It is for this reason that we were founders of the non-aligned movement at the height of the Cold War. We are a firm believer in the founding principles that encompass the respect of fundamental human rights and purposes of the UN Charter, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of nations, the recognition of equality of all races and nations, and abstention from intervention or interference in the internal affairs of states, and refraining from acts or threats of aggression from the use of force. It is through the implementation of these principles and the promotion of dialogue between peoples and pushing of peace that we can create and sustain world peace. Distinguished Excellencies, Egypt and the region has definitely changed course in January 2001, and there is no going back. Egyptians took their fate into their own hands, turning over the shady pages of the recent past with the hope of building a new future based on equality, all the citizens before the law, and respect of human rights for everyone. Mishaps happen, especially in light of the volatility and difficulty of transitional situations. However, we in Egypt are determined to respect the rule of law and not to repeat the mistakes of the past. There is a new, unique development in human history that is taking place around the world that is unprecedented in reach and volume, a global political awakening. The term was coined by Brzezinski, who said in a speech he delivered 3 years ago before the Arab revolutions began, and I quote, "For the first time in history, all of humanity is politically activated, politically conscious, and politically interactive." This prophecy has come true. The Middle East now is at the epicenter of this political awakening. One thing is certain, regardless of the final results of the past awakenings or the wished-for results of the current awakenings in the various countries, what is fundamental is the population, the people, taking on a political and social consciousness and subsequently taking part in massive political and social action aimed at generating a major change in the political, social, and economic realms. We have more questions than answers, and some pundits are now calling the Arab Spring the Arab season. Whatever it is, the Arab season or even the 4 seasons, it is now clear that the transitions are never designed, but emerge through difficult and contentious political processes. But when they work, they produce systems which differences can be managed through peaceful means. There are a few lessons that we have learned in these 2 years. One is that not only have the people spoken, but they are still speaking while we gather here today, and they will continue to speak. People in our region are increasingly defining what they desire in reaction to what they perceive to be the negative impact on them of policies and decision. The process of change we are witnessing may be chaotic, but it is irreversible. In different ways and degrees, in intensity in different Arab countries, people dislike the status quo, and they are susceptible to being mobilized against the powers that be, whether they perceive them as self-interestedly preoccupied with that status quo. The Arab people's participation in politics at the mass level is here to stay, and this represents a landmark departure from the past. Second, the youth in the region are particularly restless and resentful. The rapidly expanding of population under the 25-year-old is creating a huge mass of impatient young people that represent a political time bomb, unless quick employment opportunities are provided and the internet generation can be harnessed. I'll finish in 1 minute. Third, politically awakened populations crave political dignity, which democracy can enhance, but political dignity also encompasses vast human and social economic rights. Thus, there's no doubt that the majority of the people live in poverty and social dislocation. Fourth, the international community has a role to play in assisting Arab Spring nations towards their journey, but it can only do so by staying clear of attempts to drive the process, but only to support it. Fifth, we realize that the successful institution building will be the deal clincher in our part of the world. The squares of Arab capitals will always be there, but it's the building of democratic institutions that will create the appropriate political and institutional channels to air grievances. Finally, the gates of the era of the pluralism in the Arab world have been pushed once and for all. After decades, indeed centuries of authoritarian voice, today there are many voices and there are people. And due to the time constraint, I would like to end with a quote from a prayer of the Prophet that, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, O God, you are peace, and from you comes peace. Make us live in peace. Make us enter into the abode of peace. Thank you very much.
you.